Welcome to The Being Guide, the lifestyle podcast that celebrates diversity of thought on all things health, wellness, and being. I'm your host, Charlotte Horn. Join me as I indulge my curiosity through candid conversations about health and life, with people who represent a whole spectrum of ideologies on what it means to be well. I'll be finding out what being means to each of them as they generously share their stories and leave us with insights that can be applied in the context of our everyday lives. Together, we seek to make sense of the paradoxes, raise awareness of the resources, and normalize conversations about the things that we are all thinking and feeling. It's not a one-size-fits-all, so take what you need and enjoy the show. My guest on today's show is founder, creative director, and social media sensation, Jeff van der Zandt. Jeff is the co-owner and director of Workshop Creative, a marketing agency specializing in musical theatre with a portfolio featuring School of Rock, Hamilton, and Moulin Rouge, to name a few. Jeff shot to fame in 2020 after a TikTok video he created spoofing a press conference went viral, racking up hundreds of thousands of views. Much to his followers' delight, Jeff continued to create content throughout lockdown, providing the much-needed reprieve sought by many at that time. As his popularity continues to rise, Jeff is a man in demand, being sought after for brand collaborations by the likes of Amazon, Google, Instagram, Opera Australia, and Pepsi. I'm not quite sure how he manages to do all of this and stay sane, but I'll be finding that out today. We'll also be getting to know the human behind the screen, finding out how he navigates the peaks and troughs of life as an influencer, unpacking what he really thinks about social media, and seeking to understand how, if at all, he manages to maintain a healthy relationship with it. Jeff van der Zandt, welcome to the show.
So much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I've just got to say as well, you actually have the most phonetically pleasing name to say ever.
Really?
Jeff van der Zandt. Jeff van der Zandt. Am I saying it right, first of all?
You are saying it right. I've never liked my name. I feel like maybe
You're kidding.
There's too many. It's always hard to spell. I hate having to be like, to say that there's a space in my surname. VAN space DE space.
No, I love it. I love it. It just rolls off the tongue.
Most people never know what to do with the DT. They're like, Zed. Yeah. Oh, you nailed it.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Is it Dutch?
Yeah.
Sounds Dutch.
Yeah.
And so you're Dutch Filipino, is that right?
Yeah. Dutch Filipino.
Great. What a magic combination.
I'm a rare Pokemon.
You are. Well, while we're talking about you and your very unique background, I'd love it if you could give us a bit of an introduction as to who you are, Jeff.
I mean, I like to say that I'm an accidental influencer. I never meant to do any of this really. But yeah, I feel like I would mostly describe myself as a creative because that kind of covers a lot of what I do. Because I'm a designer, an art director, I make silly videos, I look after marketing campaigns, creative content for other brands like musicals. So I kind of just put the umbrella of I'm a creative, and that feels appropriate to me. I feel like calling myself an influencer or a social media sensation, as you said, I feel like they don't feel like me. That's not, It doesn't like define me per se. But just the overarching creative, I think, is how I would, describe myself.
Cool. All right. We're going to unpack a few facets of your character today, but it would be awesome if we could get started by having a little look at Workshop Creative, so your marketing agency. Yeah. How did that all come to be?
So I did a stint working at big sort of ad agencies for a while. And I really got to the point where I was like in my late 20s and I was so stressed. I was working late into the night every weekend. I was just like wasting away my 20s. And I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. My life kind of fell apart even outside of work because I was working so much. And I was like, nah. I've had enough. My life is falling to bits. And I think it's because I am just like working myself to death. And so I quit. I quit with nothing to go to. I just quit
Wow.
to be unemployed. And I did a lot of traveling and kind of ended up just freelancing because I always loved designing. And I ended up just having so much work that I could sustain myself in a freelance capacity full time. And then it also kind of grew to the capacity that I was like, there's so much work here that even I can't take on these things. Or people were offering me things that I didn't want to do, or that like wasn't what made me excited. But my best mate Ash McKenzie, I was like, they're all the things that he's really great at. And so we went out for dinner and I was like, there is the capacity here for us to just do creative stuff. Because I knew that he was also a creative and he loved a lot of that stuff. And I was like, we get on so well, we work really well together. I think there is the potential for us to start something together. And so he ended up quitting his job and we started Workshop Creative, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, wow. And now you're working with some pretty impressive clients.
Yeah.
So how did the kind of relationship with the musical theatre kind of play into things?
I mean, we'd both kind of often worked with musical theatre clients. He was an actor previous to being in marketing. And yeah, as soon as we started working together, I already had a couple of clients that he kind of came on board with, and we started offering more things as soon as he joined. And that kind of took off. But then really with like Hamilton and Mary Poppins and a whole bunch of other ones, we pitched for Hamilton really early on when we started. I think we'd been running the business for, I want to say 4 months. And we pitched for Hamilton. We pitched against a bunch of massive agencies, and somehow we won the gig. But yeah, that kind of really kickstarted us from the beginning, really.
Yeah. And you say that you just kind of quit your job. You didn't have anything necessarily to fall back on. How did you muster up the courage to do that? Like that's a pretty bold move.
I mean, I'm going to get like slightly deep here, but
please do. I'm all for it.
As I said, my life kind of like fell apart outside of my work. So I was in a long-term relationship with a guy, and I was often traveling for work and whatever. And he ended up cheating on me, and kind of it absolutely shattered me, like destroyed every perception that I had of, the relationship and everything that we were working towards and all that kind of stuff. But it was like, in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it made me wake up and be like, if you don't like something, change it. Like, don't sit in something for longer than you should because of XYZ. Like if you are unhappy in something, if you don't like it, change it. And I also read a book around that time called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, which I've read multiple times. But
I've heard very good things about the book.
It's incredible. But there was a line in there, I think, and this was the actual line that made me resign, was just jump off the cliff and build your parachute on the way down.
Oof,
and I was like, quitting my job is literally jumping off a cliff, because I don't have a job, I don't have anything, but it's the momentum of doing the thing, like following what you think is the right thing to do or what feels right, like chasing that wholeheartedly, like with no parachute, and building it on the way down. Like the momentum of doing that thing, you will work so hard to build that parachute on the way down. And I guess that's what I did. Like as I traveled, I was still freelancing. Like I was designing programs and posters on trains in Japan. I was designing concert posters in Amsterdam. Like what I did with my work, luckily, I could do anywhere. So one thing kind of led to another. People would see my work and be like, "Oh my God, who did this?" And then it would kind of grow into more work, and yeah, it just kept going from there. And the thing was, I was doing something that I loved, so it never felt like work. And I just constantly kept chasing that feeling of just being happy, not stressed, and loving what I did.
You were kind of like ahead of the curve there with the going off, working remotely, doing that from wherever. Like
when COVID hit and everyone was like, "Oh, I'm going to work from home," I'm like, "Welcome to my life for the last 2 years."
Yeah, totally. And now I understand the workshop's motto, life comes first.
Yes.
I guess that feeds into everything that you've kind of just told us about how
Sure.
it all came to be. Do you want to unpack it a little bit further for us?
I mean, that's more of an internal motto. We don't tell our clients that externally, but I think for all things, like as I said, like my life was so stressful, and I just always was like, you've got to do the work, you've got to do the work. When at the end of the day, where did that get me in my life? Really, not very far. So I think between us, we're both like, nothing is more like your health, your happiness, like none of that is worth the cost of working till midnight every day of the week. Like that. And the other thing is, you're way more efficient when you are healthy and you do put your life things first. Your brain works better, you are more efficient. Like I know it seems backwards, but it does end up making us
more
better,
productive
more
as humans. I know.
Yeah.
It's so true. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? But there's so much power in rest and really taking care of your health, be it mental, physical, and doing the things that make you happy, because then that does just spill out into every area of your life and just optimize the overall experience.
Absolutely.
That's so great to hear. It's really inspiring to hear stories of people who have jumped off the cliff and built the parachute on the way down, because I think it's something that a lot of people kind of fantasize about, but there's something that just holds them back from doing so.
Don't get me wrong, like I got a massive payout, not massive, but like I got my sick leave paid out because I've been there and taken a holiday. Like, there was some kind of safety net there, but to leave and not even have any prospect of a job, like no interviews, like nothing, it was still pretty scary.
Yeah, of course. And so how did workshop fare during lockdown? Because obviously musical theatre, not many shows going on in the last couple of years. How did it all go?
I mean, we are so lucky that we had Hamilton, because Hamilton was still quite a way away, and there was still lots of strategy work to be done ahead of sort of launching. But it kind of did pave the way. Like it took away all of the other extraneous projects, and we like really could just focus on Hamilton. So like we spent a lot of time on that strategy and making our cast announcement video really exciting, and it just gave us time to focus on the biggest project that we've had. So yes, like we did lose a lot of work, and overnight I basically like grabbed all my emails and filed them. Like that's how much work we lost.
Wow.
But also it gave me the time and space and bandwidth to make a video a day, and then that's what set off that area of my life.
Yeah, right. And so I guess that segues us nicely onto Jeff as the social media sensation / influencer / all the other terms that you bloody hate.
Legitimately, I downloaded TikTok as a marketer. I was like, this is an up and coming platform. I need to understand how it works. I'm going to join this platform and just like use it to understand it, because it's going to be, the next big thing. And then in doing that, making videos to try and learn how to use it, they just kind of, one of them went nuts and it went from there.
It's pretty amazing. How many had you done before your Scott Morrison one went viral?
I want to say like 4, maybe 4 or 5. Oh, actually, maybe a few more. The thing is, I had been lip syncing for years. Like I was using this app called Dub Smash, and I was known to a few people who were like obsessed with my lip syncs just on my Instagram. And then someone was like, you need to get off Dub Smash and use TikTok to lip sync, because everyone's lip syncing on there. And so they were just all the kind of videos that I was making originally. And then the Scott Morrison one came along, and that was a lip sync.
Yeah, wow. And how many videos have you done now?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Like hundreds, thousands?
Oh, not thousands. Let me have a look right now.
All right, yeah, you do that live.
3. Oh wait, no, it doesn't tell me. I was like 300, but
you don't even know your own metrics. Come on.
No, because I don't really even look at my own metrics. I don't look at my analytics. Like I'm not sitting here being like, how do I grow? What can I, how many videos have I done? Like,
so how's it kind of evolved from doing it for, a bit of fun to now where you kind of have obligations to brands because people want to work with you, and that's really, really exciting. But like, how do you consistently find that inspiration? Because your content is so consistent, it's very topical, it's hysterical, and it never feels like you're compromising your integrity when you're posting. And I just wonder, like, how you continuously show up like that.
I mean, that's really sweet for you to say that, because it doesn't always feel like that. Admittedly, like, I think I am really aware of my own mind. And as soon as something starts to feel like a chore, I don't want to do it. Like, no matter what it is in all of my life, I'm like, oh, if it feels like I have to do something, I hate it.
Yeah, you rebel.
Yeah. And I think the videos that I made, like, I always made things because they made me laugh. I had fun making them, and I saw a connection between like a thing in my head and something that was happening in the news. You know, they were kind of the things that made me make the videos. So I don't think I've ever really made a video, not that I can think of, that I've been like, you just have to make a video. Like, you just have, I always try and find the fun in whatever I'm doing. Otherwise, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, okay.
Don't get me wrong. Honestly, when I have made things that have taken me a long time, like there's this one Gladys Berejiklian one of all of her press conferences.
The wigs?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was
This was like, where it was like a remix of all of her press conferences. That one took me maybe 2 hours to make. And even that, I was like, it took me so long that it started to feel like a chore. And by the end of it, I was like, I didn't even think this is funny anymore. Like, even that took that long. And I was like, I don't like this. But then I literally stopped halfway because I was like, this sucks. And then I put it together. And what I had put together, I was like, no, that is funny. Put in the work to finish this video. But it did. It took me ages.
Yeah, wow. So that one took a couple of hours, which, to be honest, doesn't even sound like that long given the level of like detail and, you know, the different costume changes and, you know, splicing it all together.
I think I'm just really harsh with myself. Like, I watch it too. I'm like, yeah. You missed the breath there. There's like, you're not bang on that like lip sync.
Yeah.
I do so many takes.
Yeah. So you're a bit of a perfectionist?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Oh gosh. It's a blessing and a curse because, you know, like it impedes, like I'm exactly the same. And I guess the good thing about podcasting is that you kind of just got one shot and you just have a chat and you try and make it as, you know, as good as you can in the time that you've got. But oh God, like, you know, putting together the content afterwards, which is, to be honest, I really love the podcasting process. I love connecting with people. I love, you know, researching different topics and different people. I'm fascinated by humans. But the bit that really I've got such resistance to doing it is the social media side of things. Like, just the thought of like having to post to get the message out there, which, you know, you have to, it's a necessary evil. You want to spread the word. You want to give these amazing people who've taken time to speak to you, like, the marketing and the platform that they deserve. But I just have this real resistance to it. Do you ever feel that, like, before posting? You do?
Oh, 100%. I mean, luckily, I kind of am my own master in the sense that I'm like, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. Like, there are times when I'm like, I am so busy with my work and I'm like, wow, you haven't posted anything for ages. But I'm like, well, don't force it, because if you force it, it'll be shit.
Yeah, totally.
And so I have also been going by the mantra recently of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
So I often am like, if you work till midnight, you can do it. I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't. Overachiever perfectionist is like, just work harder. And I'm like, no, remember how that got you into that mess?
Yeah, totally. And you're just then like second guessing everything. Like, do you feel like the more that your following has grown, do you feel a level of do you feel that resistance growing at all? Like, do you feel like there's a sort of, you've got more pressure and there's more responsibility on the content that you post now because your following is growing? Do you feel that responsibility, or are you just like, nah, I don't care?
I mean, I haven't actually ever put a lot of worth into social media generally. So like, I don't really care about how many people are following me. Like when we were kind of all in the vaccination thing and I was getting a lot of hate for posting vaccination content, I'm like, fucking unfollow me. Like I don't put any, I'm not sitting here being like, oh no, my followers. Like if you don't like me, don't follow me.
I know it's such a simple concept that so many struggle to grasp.
Like, yeah,
people love to hate follow. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, maybe. I and in terms of feeling the pressure, I feel like sometimes when I'm trying to push an important message, that's when I feel like I'm like, there are lots of people who you can reach. So you should talk about this, or you should, as I said, promote vaccinations. Like I will always do the thing that I think is right. But I'm never like, oh no. I definitely went through a stage at the start where I was like, oh gosh, that's a lot of people. Maybe you shouldn't post your breakfast. But at the end of the day, I'm like, this is still your channel. So if you feel like it, post it. Like it doesn't matter.
Get that other one toast up there.
I mean, not that I've ever posted my breakfast. There was a part of me that was like, you always have to be funny. Like you always have to be posting content. But then another part of me is like, but then who are you? Like where I literally had to go to therapy about this. I was like, I'm losing myself in this persona, or like this person. Like I'm essentially like a meme robot. And I lost who I kept second guessing, like this whole idea of like, people don't follow me for me. They follow me for the funny part. And my therapist was like, but your humor is you. Like that is part of who you are. So like, I don't understand how your page isn't you, which was really helpful for me to be like, oh, yeah, of course, that is a part of myself. Like I am inherently my social media page, essentially.
Yeah, it's just, it must be, I understand it must be really difficult to kind of separate the two, like, it being a kind of a personal thing, but then also it kind of veering into professional territory, and then having not only the kind of pressure of delivering content that the brands that you're working with are really happy with, but also then appeasing the followers and, oh, is this what they want to see? And, oh, is this, because now I'm this kind of persona, should I be posting that personal stuff? I completely understand that could be a really kind of tricky.
It was actually a troll who I think meant to message someone else about me, but messaged me by accident, which happens a lot. Happens a lot.
My God.
To the best of us. And they wrote, God, you really like this guy? I think they said, you really like this guy. He's sometimes funny, sometimes not. And I was like, you know what, troll? That is the best. That's why I put that in my bio. Sometimes funny, sometimes not. Because I'm like, sometimes I am funny and sometimes I'm just me. Sometimes I'm just away with my boyfriend. Sometimes I'm at the beach. Like I'm not a meme machine.
Oh my God, that person has done you an absolute solid. That's a great line. Love that. So you've mentioned like a couple of trolling kind of incidents. How do you generally fare when you get trolled? Because obviously, like, the stoic in all of us would love to just kind of be like, oh, order off a duck's back. It doesn't matter. It's fine. They're sad little people, which they absolutely are. But, fundamentally, it's hurtful to hear and read nasty things about yourself. So I just wonder how you kind of manage that.
I want to say 95% of the time, I'm like, cool, enjoy your life. Go call your mum. But admittedly, there have been some, and most of the time I'm just fascinated and like I try to understand, because they're like, they say things like, oh, this is so cringe, or like, imagine lip syncing to a kid, or why do you always have to lip sync to females, like trying to question my, targeting me for being gay, or like all of those things. Really, I'm kind of like, they're not really attacking me personally. Like and as a designer, I've always been like, art is subjective. Like one person can really love something, someone else can really hate it. And I feel like comedy and content and people are the same. Like I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Everyone is not my cup of tea. Like, and that's fine. and the keyboard warriors who feel like they need to vocalize that opinion, I'm like, well, sure. I hope you feel better for vocalizing that, but I generally don't really take it on.
That's really good to know. I think because our brain falls victim to this negativity bias so often, in that, like, you know, you could have so much love on a post and people are like, oh, you know, this is hilarious, this is fantastic. But then sometimes, you know, it could be the one negative post that sticks with you.
I mean, funnily enough, this is also part of the reason I was in therapy, is the more positive reinforcement I got, the less I felt I was worthy of it, which was bizarre.
Wow. Okay.
So I was like, oh my God, all of these people are like, oh, you're changing my life, you're helping me through lockdown, all of this stuff. And I was like, I'm so unworthy of all of that, all of those compliments,
Really?
which was fascinating. That, like,
wow.
And someone actually, and then I talked about this on my story and was like, talked about going to therapy and like asked for people's therapy recommendations, which was, again, people were like, oh my God, you're so brave. But I was like, you guys fucked this up, so you fix it. But someone actually sent me an article about someone who had become well known, and it was like 10 things I wish I knew before I chased fame or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I thought that a massive amount of love from without, like externally, would fix my lack of love within, and it didn't. And I was like, oh my God, that was exactly, that's kind of what I learned, you know, through my time in therapy. That, like, I was actually like, all of that stuff was just my internal being like, I'm unworthy of all of this stuff. And people being like, oh my God, you're amazing, was making me go like, it was weirdly somehow confirming internally that I was like, but you're not, like, everything that they said, you're great. I was like, but I'm not, like, and it was the internal talk that was kind of more detrimental than anything. So it wasn't necessarily the compliments. So when a troll comes along, I'm kind of like,
yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Oh, self-deprecating.
Yeah. I mean, I'm British. That's in my blood.
Totally.
We're dickheads to ourselves on a daily basis. Well, that's really, are you still doing the therapy now?
No, I feel like I spent a bit of time doing that. I didn't get all the way through it, but it did. I did therapy and I went to a soul reader, which seems kooky, but she,
like a Reiki practitioner.
Reiki. She reads. I'm generally not into this stuff, but I went and saw her once, and the like 3 or 4 times that I've seen her, she really helped clarify a lot of the things that I was thinking and feeling way faster than a therapist could.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I think I sorted a lot of those internal thoughts out to do with my social media. And so that was kind of the main reason I was there. Yeah,
wow. Oh, this soul reader. I might have to get a little recommendation from you offline.
Yeah, sure.
Anything for a bit of clarity, faster than my brain can get there.
But the thing is, like, her whole shtick was about insight and awareness. So these are things that you inherently know, but she can dive into them and explain them in ways that you kind of go, I absolutely do think like that. I absolutely do practice that behavior, and I'm unaware of it. And she'll kind of be able to get right to the point of it really quickly.
Great. We've got no time to waste. Any fast tracking. So before, when you were kind of saying, like, you were kind of struggling to reconcile the kind of personal you and this kind of funny you, and you were like, who am I? Would you say that the social media persona is a bit of an alter ego? So when you're making the videos and stuff, do you feel like you're kind of putting on a bit of a mask?
I guess I am performing, because a lot of the videos are me lip syncing. So I have to kind of embody the voice that I am being to a certain extent. And funnily enough, this came from the soul reader. When I saw her a few years ago, when my life was falling apart, she was like, there is a part of you that you are underutilizing. There is this like performance side of yourself that sets your soul on fire, and that like makes you come alive, that you're just not using. And hilariously, now that kind of is my social media. Like I perform all of these lip syncs. I like write sketches. I write, comedy things. Like I am essentially performing. So in some aspect, yeah, there is a persona there. Just as much as there, like any actor has a persona. But I would say like in all of my stories, they're mostly just me.
I've heard you speak before about being quite a shy person and being like slightly more on the introverted end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
How do I identify as that? So I identify as an ambivert. So I feel like a little from column A, a little from column B, you dial them up and down as you need to. But like, how do you lean into the more extroverted tendencies and kind of do this kind of performative, like express that performative side of yourself if you're not feeling it? For example, like, you and I are speaking now. You could have had a shocker of a day, you could be in a foul mood because something could have happened. Similarly from my end, how do you dig in and like lean into that kind of performative side of yourself to then show up and do things like this, where you sort of want to put your best foot forward and you still want to be, appeasing your kind of audience and your following?
I guess I have spent a lot of time pretending, as I used to be like a relationship manager at a big agency. And what that meant was that it was my job to just like schmooze the ad execs at the clients that we had. And then also working in the theatre world, there is often a lot of like, we call it a show face. Like you just got to kind of put it on for the area or event that you're at. And so I think there's part of that plays into it, that I know the time and place and the person that I have to be. And I can often put things aside for that. But then also I spent a lot of time, when I was younger, I was in shows a lot and I was actually performing in theatre and whatever. So for my social media side of things, I can absolutely just like be the performer, like be that clown, and then turn that off as soon as I'm done with that. But I think for me, I need, when I have been the most depleted and depressed, is when I don't have the time to turn it off. Like I am like constantly working, and then at night I have to film content, and then I have to film a collaboration or a sponsorship, but like there's no actual downtime. Then I do run out of the capacity to put on that show. And my sister actually said this about me once. She was like, you have a long rope, but as soon as that is gone, you're done. Like you don't have anything to hide behind. Which is so true. I can go a long time, but once I'm done, I'm done.
And then
do nothing.
And so when you get to that, stage, what do you do to recharge?
I have to do nothing. Like I have to sit and watch TV for a long period of time, or like spend a weekend. Weirdly, I have to clean my house. Cleaning my house, doing my washing, things that make me feel like my life is together. They're the things that make me go like, oh, okay, like my life is in order again. Because when I am busy, they're the things that I don't have. I'm like, I push to the back of the list. So once I take the time to do those two things, sometimes buying flowers also makes me feel like an adult, and like things are kind of
you got your shit together.
I know, light a candle, like shit like that. I know my trigger points that are like, okay, your life's together and you can take on more again. Yeah.
So just kind of looking at social media. So I've heard you say in the past that you don't always, have the best relationship with social media. And obviously there's peaks and troughs of it. We've spoken a little bit about the trolls, and we've spoken about, some of the other elements that can be challenging about having an online persona. But what would you say is your relationship with social media?
It's tricky because like I use it a lot. Mostly I feel like I spend a lot of time like talking to friends on social media. Like that has kind of become integrated. So I wouldn't necessarily call that screen time per se, like messaging. But I do spend a lot of time on TikTok. Like I know that once I open TikTok, I'm kind of gone for an hour. Like if I have an hour to kill, I'm like, I can kill it easy on TikTok. But I don't
Are you
know.
addicted? Do you
Yeah, I was
reckon?
going to say, I don't know if I am addicted to social media. I don't have any notifications and I don't really check my notifications all that much because I went through the period when things were going nuts with all of my videos. I went through like notification overload. Like that legitimately hurt my brain to the point where I was like, I have to put my phone in the bathroom and like do a workout in my bedroom so that I am like away from my phone. So I think that time it took a lot of learning for me to understand where my capacity is with a lot of that stuff. And legitimately, like now it's kind of leveled out as much. But I have a better relationship with not checking or not not having to, because that's the other thing. I used to try and respond to everyone that messaged me and it just got too much. So letting go of some of that and not looking at, I don't read all the comments, like all of those things I kind of have let go of.
Yeah.
Is a much easier relationship.
Yes, you must have been wired because, every time we get a notification, like these apps, they make it such that, you get your notification and it triggers something in you and you get that spike of dopamine in your brain and it feels good. And then you're just in anticipation. And then yours must have just been going off constantly. So you're just in this constant state of like overstimulation.
Yeah, totally. It was like dopamine overload, I guess. Like there was a point where I was like, it's not fun anymore. Like I'm not getting the hit anymore.
Yeah.
And then I went through a stage where I'm like, if I didn't post something, I wasn't getting the dopamine. And then, there was the withdrawals of that. Like it was a tricky time to navigate, but
definitely.
Yeah, it's much easier now and I'm not nearly as connected to it.
Have you noticed that since your following has grown that it's taken a toll on your mental health?
There was a period there when I started to go to therapy where I was like, I was losing myself I didn't know who I was anymore. I had really low self-worth. I felt like I wasn't deserving of any of the stuff I felt. Yeah, I did go through a stage where it did affect it. But I think actually disconnecting more from it helped a lot. And I think I said in an interview recently that I am not my social media. Like my social media doesn't define my worth at all. Which is why I was like, and because I've never cared about followers or any of that stuff. So I think detaching myself in that way and just treating it as like a fun thing to play with every now and then, like that's really useful.
How else do you kind of maintain healthy boundaries with social media when, as you said, it's so easy to get sucked in, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the kind of the dopamine spike from the constant notifications and people wanting more and wanting to see more from you? Do you have any rules or principles that you kind of live by, or do you just try and make it more of a
I never do anything for other people. Like no, sorry, that sounds really awful. I do.
I'm going to use that as a soundbite.
I'm sure you would. Great.
Jeff Van Der Zandt, I don't do anything for anyone.
No, as in like, if people are like, how do I explain this? I never do things for, I was going to say the same thing again, like, because I need to impress the audience or like, I think they really love this. Like I never do it specifically for an audience. I have to be true to myself in the sense that I do it because I find it fun, and that is kind of, if they enjoy it, they enjoy it. If they don't, they don't. But that doesn't matter because I've had fun making it. So that in that sense, I don't do things for the audience. I can't remember the question. What was the question?
It was just around what are the kind of boundaries that you have in place with your phone and social media and things like that.
I guess the other thing that I would do, or that I do is I try not to think about it too much. Like if let's pretend I'm wanting to post Avo Toast and I'm like, oh, will they like this? That's already an indicator to me that I'm like, you're overthinking this. Like if you want to post it. Like it shouldn't control your life. So if I like a photo of my niece or like a dog that I met on the street, I'm going to post it. I'm not going to sit there being like, does it have to be funny? Like I have to make this funny for this audience. Like, that then takes up too much space in my brain, and it is not the point of social media. So less thinking about it is kind of
okay.
Yeah.
How do we do that, Jeff?
I don't know. It's difficult because I'm like, I guess I play in a different ball game, I guess, like to general social media. I don't know, because a lot of more people see it, or because I've had this history with it. I don't know. I've had to learn a lot of these behaviors because I've had such negative outcomes from them.
It just feels like something that so many people can probably relate to listening, the resistance before posting and the pressure of like,
no, absolutely.
Does it need to be funny? Is it witty enough? What's the caption? Oh no, God, is this portraying the right image?
Yeah. And then I guess time limits is the other thing. Even though I have a set time limit set on my Instagram, I go over it a lot, but it's at least a flag for you to be like, am I spending too much time on this?
Yeah.
But like when I put my phone away when I was getting notification overload, like breaks are really useful. Also, for me, blocking people and unfollowing people that make you feel bad. I think as a gay man, I used to follow like a lot of just like beautiful men that I didn't know and whatever. But sometimes filling your feed with that kind of stuff doesn't make you feel good. And so I've got a lot of like, I love self-helpy things. So I follow a lot of self-helpy things. I follow a lot of artists, a lot of meme pages, like things that actually enhance your life. So when you are spending time on that, you're not just reiterating the things that make you feel bad about yourself. You're kind of learning something, or you're enjoying like a cute puppy, or like, whatever. I think curating your feed in that way is also really helpful.
That's a really good one, because then obviously the more that we're feeding into the content that's not making us feel good, we feed into the algorithm, and then it just spits out more and more and more and more. But like we're all like suckers for punishment, aren't we? Because we're like, just got to keep scrolling. Look at that babe with the hot bod. Oh my God.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not perfect. I absolutely still follow some of the people, but I definitely go through and try and do a comb through every now and then to be like, and a lot of things that I like go when I'm doing the comb through, I'm like, I forget, I never really see this page and I love this page, like artists that I follow, or quote pages, which most of them are awful, but like there are some that I think are really funny and
I think that's really valuable advice, because we sort of I think everyone goes through a bit of a battle with social media where they're like, oh, do I just go completely cold turkey? But I don't think that's the answer, like just being completely avoidant, because it's such a huge part of society today. So we kind of need to learn how to make friends with it. And I think the things that you've just said are really, really amazing ways that we can actually go on and not have a really bad experience. Or just like try as much as we can to actually not fuck ourselves over every time we go onto social media.
Yeah.
Are you scared of cancel culture?
No, not really. Scared.
Okay, good. Next.
Scared in what way? I guess, don't get me wrong. Like I think about when I'm posting about things that are important, or that like, mean something, I do genuinely think about it. And I do always want to be politically correct. But I guess I feel like cancel culture is happen, or like people get cancelled when they famous last words, when they don't think about it, or when they don't act the right way when they have fucked up. Because the thing is, everyone can fuck up. Like no one is ever really angry at someone for the fuck up itself. It's often they're cancelled for how they respond to their fuck up. I feel like. So like I'm not scared of it in that sense, because I am so open to saying, like, if I say something or post something or whatever that is like really inappropriate and someone calls me out on it, I am so happy to own that and learn from it. I think I think everyone should be okay with making mistakes, as long as you are constantly striving to do the right thing.
Yeah, great. And I guess what I'm also really interested to know is, how the hell you do all that you do with workshop, which, you know, running your own business, that's like a full-time gig in itself. Now you've got the kind of content creation and your social media persona side of things. How do you manage both of those huge things alongside maintaining, you know, your personal life and your other hobbies and interests? And just how do you stay sane?
Good question. I feel like my answer to that would fluctuate. Because I don't feel like I've always got the balance right. And I am always fighting the previous, like past Jeff, where I'm like, remember how stressed you were when you were working constantly and you never had any breaks? I guess the difference now is that working, you know, day and night and on all these things are on all things that I love and are all things on my terms. So, you know, working for a company, working yourself to death, you just get paid the same salary, you know, whatever. Whereas I guess I work when I need to work. So if I have to work at night to film something or whatever, I can maybe take the morning off the next day. Like, I think I find balance in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to work in such a fluid kind of, whenever the work needs to get done, you do it, does probably help me be more efficient and kind of be able to use my time wiser. But don't get me wrong, I am busy.
Yeah.
And I like being busy. Like I'm an overachiever. So I like to work hard. When I've got nothing to do, I'm bored.
Do you give yourself the weekend, or do you find yourself working on the weekend?
I find myself filming content on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Generally I try and do all of my like work stuff during the week, and then my weekends are reserved for content unless I can film it at night during the week, which is pretty rare. But again, I try and make it feel like it's fun and that it's not a chore, so it doesn't take up my whole weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's hard to imagine that you do have any time left for recreation or a bit of fun. But what do you do to have fun? What do you do to kind of unwind? What do you do in the spaces that you're not creating content or working?
I love a games night. I love kind of we host people at our office, and we occasionally have games nights.
What kind of games?
We play this one. We call it the bowl game. I feel like you've played it before, where you like all write things down and you put them in a bowl, and there are 3 rounds. You've got to like act it out. You've got to explain it. You've got to use one word. It's a really simple bowl game, but it's really different every time because it depends on what people put in the bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fun.
Play Taboo, Codenames, a whole bunch of different ones. I feel like the thing that I do the most, and that probably is like my go-to relaxation thing, is I go to the movies. I see so many movies, and I kind of feel like I enjoy it so much because it's one of the few times where, or going to the theater, like where it takes my full attention. Like if I watch TV or if I watch a movie at home, like I kind of sometimes do the double screening thing where I'm like checking messages or whatever. Like it doesn't have my full attention. Whereas if I go to the movies, I'm in it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. I think we're all guilty of the double screen situation.
I'm terrible at it, especially when I'm watching TV. You know, I'm watching a show with Nathaniel, my boyfriend. We're very good at watching, like purely watching the thing. But if I'm there by myself, I'm like, on Instagram or whatever, like half watching things. And then I look up and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on.
It's so true. It's so true. That's kind of, I guess, my version of the movies would be reading a good book, because you know, there's just something about getting like stuck. It's got to be a good book though. It's got to be something that you feel like in a flow with. But you know, time just passes so quickly. You're not tempted to touch the phone. I think we all need our little reprieve from the incessant screens. I say as I'm like literally surrounded by screens. So and this is kind of got not that much relevance, so I'm not even going to try and segue it in any way, shape or form. But so when you were in ISO recently and you did your confessions thread where you asked people, I think you were bored, you were like, did people tell me your confession?
Yeah.
And it was hysterical. Like, it had me in stitches. So in keeping with that theme, can you tell us something that we might not know about you?
Oh.
And that not that many people know?
My own confession.
Your own.
That is not what that confession
The
is.
tables have turned.
That's difficult. Something that people might not know about me. I mean, I'm a pretty open book.
Yeah. I know, you have to dig pretty deep.
I mean, I feel like you've already got one of the things that people might not know about me is that, like, that whole relationship breakdown thing.
Okay, all right.
Maybe that I used to be 20 kilos overweight.
Okay.
Maybe
all right.
I don't know.
Yeah, sure. How did you lose the weight?
I quit my job.
I'm not even
joking. My personal trainer that I was training with when I was stressed out of my mind, she was like, you're doing all the right things. You need to quit your job. You're so stressed. The stress is making you put on weight. And no shit, I quit my job and I lost like 10 kilos straight away.
Oh my God. I can just hear everybody who's like trying to lose some weight at the moment. Just like, that's it. I'm quitting.
Yeah, totally.
Mass exodus. Cool. All right. Well, let me just get us stuck into the quickfire round. So it's just 5 quickfire questions to answer in a sentence or less.
Sure.
Are you up for that?
Yep. Let's do it.
Great. Okay, so first question, and it's kind of technically 2 questions, but what's the best and worst advice you've been given?
See, it's hard. Like, I always feel like hindsight is an interesting thing, because one of the reasons that I didn't pursue acting was my sister was a performer, and I did a few like sort of like workshops and stuff with her, and she was like, if there is anything else that you love doing just as much as performing, go do that. And I was like, I like designing, and it's like designing was always a sort of nice high, but it was consistent, whereas performing was like massive high when you get the role and then massive low. It was kind of up and down. And so I chose designing, and part of me is like, was that the worst advice she ever gave me? Because I do love performing, but I'm like, you kind of ended up performing anyway. Like, what's for you won't go past you. I feel like that's probably the best kind of advice thing. Like, if it's not meant for you, it won't, get it. So I feel like that's the best, but maybe the worst was do something other than performing. But then again, I'm like, that wasn't the worst advice, because I am still performing now. It didn't change my life. So
yeah.
It's hard.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
this just put you on your path.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
Do the thing that feels right. Again, out of this You Are a Badass book, I think it was another line. It said, you don't need to know where you're going to end up. You just need to do the thing that feels right and then keep following right feeling things. And so I feel like I've done that with my business, with boyfriends or whatever. Like, if you sit there and be like, but where is this going to lead? Like, where is it going to go? And you often like project into the future, and fear comes into it and all this other stuff. Like, what's it going to lead to? You kind of just get stuck in this, what if scenario. But if you just follow the thing that feels right in the moment, and then keep following the next thing that feels right, or like, keep following those right feeling things, you're kind of going to get where you need to get. And I think that's probably the thing that I live by, and that I probably learned that works.
Yeah. Okay. So you follow your intuition quite strongly.
Yeah. But also, it's not necessarily even just intuition. It's like, what's the immediate like next right thing to do? Or like what smaller steps, rather than like big picture. I want to buy a house, or like I want to like take over the world. Like, you can't do that immediately. You can just do like the immediate thing that feels right in that moment.
Great. Who or what inspires you the most?
Ooh. I don't have an answer to that. I don't feel like I used to. But I feel like that's changed over time. I think there are lots. I don't think I could pinpoint one particular person, but there's like qualities in friends or family members that I am like, I want to be more like that. Like I feel like positive qualities in people are the thing that inspires me, rather than like, I want to be Steve Jobs, like, or like Oprah inspires me.
Yeah.
Although having said that, while I'm talking about books, there is another book called If I Could Tell You Just One Thing, and it is an interview with like a bunch of celebrities and CEOs. And
I've read that.
Yeah, and I feel like that book is massively inspiring. To hear people's stories from so many different aspects was hugely.
Yeah, that book's awesome. It's really cool. It's so great to hear from such a kind of broad range of perspectives on the thing that they've learned the most. It's that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Just get everybody's knowledge. Write me a book. What's your daily well-being routine?
I try and do a few fitness classes a week and go to the gym, because I feel even when I am the most stressed, I always prioritize some kind of exercise, because it just does so much for my brain. And I feel like when I'm stressed, it's always the thing that I want to kick off my list, but I know that it's useful. So I would probably say a morning gym workout.
Yeah, nice. And finally, what does being mean to you?
What does being mean? That's such a big question. Existing in the world? I don't really know how to answer that.
That's a good answer.
What?
That's a good
Existing
answer.
in the world.
Existing.
I mean, kind of. If you're thinking about like dictionary definition, but like
sure. Look. There's no prescription for this question. It's whatever it means. You can go and get the Oxford Dictionary if you like and give me verbatim what it says.
Yeah, I mean, I would say existing within your own set of experiences. I think maybe experiences is what makes you into a being. I'm going to go with that.
Sending you down a rabbit hole now. I can see.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to spiral after this call. Like,
oh, well, Jeff, that was awesome. I really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too.
I think thanks for making the time. I know that you're super busy, got lots of plates spinning.
No worries at all.
All right. Take care, Jeff. Thanks so much.
No worries. See ya.
Bye.